Glossy, gaudy, and for some, a little bit lurid. These are the iconic sculptures that have made Jeff Koons the 21st century face of pop art. In financial terms, he's the king of the contemporary market, although when it comes to critical appraisals of his work, opinions are divided. His Bouquet of Flowers installation was snubbed by many Parisians, who said the gift to, quote, pay tribute to the victims of terror attacks was unwelcome. He's also been accused of plagiarism. This latest show features the Koons pieces acquired by collector François Pinault, and it's on display at the Musée Museum in Marseille. Jeff Koons, thanks so much for joining us today. Now, we're used to seeing your artwork in galleries as standalone pieces, but here at the Museum, this is an anthropological museum, they're in dialogue with other objects. Can you tell us more about the concept at the heart of this show?
You know, it's a fascinating show, and it's just as you mentioned. The artworks are in dialogue with pieces from the Museum of Civilization, different ready-made items, you know, throughout history, everyday objects, glassware, some ceramic pieces, of cowbells, a variety of different objects. And my work comes from a history of ready-made objects. I follow in the steps of Marcel Duchamp.
Indeed, we see some very ordinary day-to-day objects here, but also some prestigious references. For example, your gazing ball, Picasso couple, makes a direct reference to the Spanish artist. Can you tell us more about how the artist is reflected literally and figuratively in that piece of work?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania. It's a central part. And I was affected by the ready-made object of a glass gazing ball. People would normally put them in their yard as a lawn ornament. And in the gazing ball series, I put these ready-made objects. It's a cobalt blue globe on a shelf, and I created the image of a Picasso painting, one of the late paintings of a couple. And it's interesting in this show because it almost looks like the gazing ball itself is already made from the museum. It's that type of feeling.
Now, other pieces here are associated uniquely with yourself. For example, the balloon dog here in its magenta version. That's probably the piece of work that people would most associate with you today. How do you feel about that sculpture becoming a sort of visual shorthand for you as an artist?
You know, it's one of many. I'm very proud of the balloon dog. And if you look closely, I think you can see here there's an aspect of a body of biology. You know, the balloon dog could be made out of intestine that, you know, you take and you twist, you blow air into, and you make a sculpture like that. And there's a sense of ritual. I could imagine a kind of some type of tribal or communal type of celebration, ritual takes place around it. I love the philosopher John Dewey. And John Dewey's an American philosopher that says that life experience is really this interface that takes place between an organism and the outside world, and the effect that that organism has on the outside world, and vice versa, what effect the outside world has on the organism. And if you look at the balloon dog, it's a membrane. And it, you know, just like our skin is a membrane from the inside and the outside world. I think all of this on a subconscious level is in discussion with the viewer.
These pieces have been selected from the Pinault collection. François Pinault's been collecting your work for a number of years now, and he's just opened a new space in Paris at the Bourse de Commerce, in addition to his spaces in Venice. How do you feel that private collectors like Pinault are shaping our relationship with contemporary art in the 21st century?
I think they're very important. They give people the opportunity to be able to interact with art. Somebody like Francois is very deeply involved with his collection, and he likes to work and play with the collection to be able to communicate ideas, at least the way he sees his collection and how the works can interact.
A court in Paris recently ordered you to pay damages to a French advertising executive, judging that a sculpture of yours, Fait divers, constituted plagiarism, that you'd taken an image, an existing image, and made it into a 3D sculpture. And this does raise a very existential question. There are many artists, many artworks that borrow or reference from other pieces. Picasso himself was fond of borrowing. Why do you think your work was singled out?
If you would ask different people, they could give you different answers. I think probably because of the success that I've had. But I come from, the tradition of surrealism and Dada and pop art and the use of imagery of the everyday world, this dialogue with the everyday world was some way of being brought up to look at the world. And, copyright laws are different, throughout the world. And hopefully the dialogue of some of these issues comes more united eventually. But all of these things continue to change in time also.
Art's entering a new chapter with the creation of NFTs, work being displayed in the virtual space, dematerialized work to a certain extent. It's something you've explored, I believe, with augmented reality. Can you tell us a bit more about why you were interested in that?
I work with technology, and if I look at how I produce the balloon dog, it's all through the use of CAT scans and using all different types of technology to be able to have it be as kind of objective as possible, that each twist and fold is as authentic as possible. So I could almost take any part of that process and make an NFT from it. And I'm sure in some ways that my work may be just presented in a purely digital way. But what I'm interested in as an artist is to communicate to people about life experience. And if I felt that I could do it more directly, stronger in that medium right at this moment, I would. But I think especially for young artists, it's important to realize that if you want to create new work, fresh, contemporary work, if you just work with the newest technology, that's not necessarily where you find something that's new. And I think actually something truly new comes from the things that are very ancient, very old, biological information, the sense of memory that we all carry within a kind of a universal vocabulary of our experience, our human experience. And bringing that to the forefront, to the surface, is what we're most interested in and has the newest feel to it.
When we met last here in France, you were revealing details about the Bouquet of tulips sculpture, a gift to the people of Paris following the terrorist attacks in 1915 to show American solidarity with them. Now, that sculpture prompted some controversy, some people saying they didn't necessarily want a public installation. And how do you negotiate that gap between, for example, an artist's intention and the public reception, ultimately, of a work?
When I made the Bouquet of Tulips, I was invited by the American ambassador, Jane Hartley, if I wanted to participate in creating a gift from the American people to the French people in response to the terrible attacks that happened in 2015, 2016, to show our solidarity and our shared values with the French people. And I tried, and I'm very proud of the Bouquet of Tulips, to show an offering of support and that we're there for each other. And I used the idea of Picasso's bronze sculpture of a woman with a vase, and there's this sense of archaic offering. And so the support or the way the public responded to it, I think that I've noticed, I think that it's the public is being supportive to the piece, and the intentions have been good. And I think that people will see that, will experience that, and can see the solidarity, the references to Bartholdi's sculpture and the connection that it has throughout history between French-American culture.
Looking ahead to future projects, I believe we'll have to wait 2 years before we see new work from you at the Pace Gallery in New York. And I believe you've recently changed representation going to Pace Gallery. I wonder if this represents a new chapter for you and what we can expect?
I've been working on a series of work called the Porcelain Series. And I am excited that in 2 years I'll be able to show this body of work, which I think, is, as far as my life journey within my dialogue with art, is the strongest work that I can make at this time. And so it gives me an opportunity to create this body of work that I think really plays with metaphysics, that you can see that I touch upon in series like the Equilibrium, or just working with reflection in a sculpture like a balloon dog, but to bring it to, I think, a higher level, complete discourse within the philosophy of the ready-made and the dialogue of becoming.
Jeff Koons, thank you very much.
Thank you.